Pearl Harbor, this is not a drill. Yes, we've taken you back to 7:55 a.m., December 7th, 1941. Imagine you were there that fateful morning. It started off as a peaceful Sunday morning over 80 years ago in Pearl Harbor at Hickam Field on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Our entire naval base has awakened, with most of the fleet peacefully anchored within the confines of the harbor. Experience the roar of the engines and the sounds of the bombs as the Imperial Japanese Navy approaches, and with the break in formation, launches the first wave of 189 fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet, led by Japanese Captain Fushida. The unprovoked surprise attack was so complete that the coded success signal, Torah Torah Torah, was sent back to the carrier task force before the first bomb fell. A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders, but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrive, and like America herself, find themselves in a war that had not yet been declared. The attack was from the Japanese aircraft carrier Akagi, Akaga, Biru, Toru, and the two new carriers, the Shokuku and the Suikuku. The plan was simple: destroy the Pacific Fleet. The raid lasted for a little over 2 horrific and gruesome hours. Yes, you have a front row seat in the Pacific Theater as the story of the attack on Pearl Harbor unfolds in front of you. When the first bombs began to fall, pilots all over the island jump into action. At Wheeler Field, Lieutenant Philip Rasmussen woke to the sound of bombs, jumping out of bed, strapping on a .45 caliber pistol over his purple pajamas, and ran to a working Curtiss P-36 Hawk. He was joined by 4 more P-36 pilots, Lewis Sanders, Harry Brown, Gordon Sterling, and Malcolm Mike Moore. They took off to engage the attacking Japanese and managed to shoot down a few of their Zeros, Bells, and Kates. The number of enemy aircraft were incredibly overwhelming. If you look show left, you'll see our P-36 chasing down one of the Zeros. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, Kenneth Taylor and George Welsh were just returning from an all-night dinner, dance, and poker party. These brave pilots, still in their formal dress clothes, raced to a couple of P-40 Warhawks. Our Warhawk out there has the big shark's mouth on it. Look for it. Anyway, they got them filled and armed, and they took off. They quickly found themselves in the middle of a real battle. These 2 pilots caught up with the Japanese close to Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field and engaged the Zeros, Bells, and Kates with rounds from their .30 caliber machine guns. However, they quickly ran out of ammunition. Luckily, though, they were able to land at Wheeler Field, which is near the center of the island. They refueled and reloaded with .30 and .50 caliber ammo and took off again to fight the Japanese. The 2 pilots are credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own planes were disabled. Both pilots received a Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. A total of 502 U.S. planes were on the ground at the beginning of the attack. Sadly, 188 totally destroyed, 159 damaged, and just 155 aircraft lay on the ground in various stages of disrepair. The first wave of 189 Japanese Zeros, Bells, and Kates hammered away for almost an hour. Then came the second wave of an additional 171 aircraft to continue the strafing, bombing, and dropping of torpedoes for yet another 70 minutes. That's a total of 360 enemy warplanes. As the attack proceeded up Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field, the devastation was horrifying. Torah, Torah, Torah. On the eastern edge of Ford Island, in the center of the harbor, 9 battleships lay at berth. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Maryland, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Utah, and Arizona. Luckily, though, our 3 Pacific aircraft carriers were out at sea. First, the Japanese hit with Kate torpedo bombers The initial wave of Kates hit 5 of our battleships: the Oklahoma, California, Nevada, West Virginia, and the Utah. These Kates were specially equipped with shallow-running torpedoes specifically designed for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see, the shallow waters at Pearl Harbor would not allow the use of normal deep-running torpedoes, which leaves no doubt that this was a well-thought-out plan and not a surprise attack. Then came the Val dive bombers, armed with 1,700 pounds of armor-busting projectiles, originally made for 16-inch battleship guns. But they were converted to aerial bombs. These planes dived down onto the Nevada and the Arizona. Anti-aircraft fire veered the Vals away from the Nevada on the first wave. But unfortunately, the Arizona was not that lucky. A bomb stabbed the Arizona through her forward magazines and exploded, torching off more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder. Sailors on the Nevada watched in horror as the Arizona jumped 20 feet in the air and broke in two, forever entrapping 1,178 American servicemen in an underwater tomb. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes, and still today she remains at the bottom of the harbor in a watery grave, crying black tears as a reminder to all of those who lost their lives that infamous day. At Marine Corps Air Station Ewha, Private First Class Melvin Thompson was on guard duty when 9 Zeros attacked the base. He stepped out of his guard shack, he drew his .45 caliber pistol and began firing on the enemy airplanes. A Japanese pilot, Yoshio Shiga, saw Thompson firing back at them. Years later, Shiga remembered Thompson's tenacity and fighting spirit, describing the lone Marine as the bravest American I've ever seen. All over the island, soldiers were bringing anything they could get to bear and fight. They were getting their working .45 caliber pistols or Springfield rifles, and in some cases, soldiers were able to get 30 and 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns into action, bringing down numerous marauding Japanese Zeros, Vals, and Kates. Meanwhile, at Bellows Airfield on the northeastern coast of the island, more U.S. Army pilots were racing to their P-40s. Unfortunately, Japanese Zeros appeared at the same time and started strafing runs. One P-40 pilot was killed as he stepped into his cockpit. 2 other P-40s were shot down just as they got off the ground. P-40 right center stage right now. The flight of 12 B-17s coming from the mainland finally arrived and were immediately attacked by the Zeros. Unfortunately, in all the confusion, the B-17s were shot at by friend and foe. Torah, Torah, Torah. The frightened crews landed wherever they could, one of them in a pineapple field not far from Hickam Field. A B-17 pilot, Major Landing, trying to land, said what a hell of a way to enter a war. Out of gas, unarmed, and no place to land. Amazingly, though, 8 of those B-17s actually made it to Hickam Field. At the conclusion of the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, more than half of America's entire naval fleet had been destroyed or damaged. Nearly 2,400 Americans were killed, over 1,200 wounded, and at the time, 960 people were missing. 188 aircraft were destroyed, 159 damaged, just 155 of our aircraft lay on the ground. 2 battleships were destroyed, 3 light cruisers, 3 destroyers, and a total of 6 battleships were damaged. Our greatest naval base lay in ruins, along with our complacency. The following day, December 8, 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt announced our entry into World War II with these words to Congress, the citizens of the United States, and the world.
Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
In the 44 months of fighting that followed, the United States sank every one of the Japanese aircraft carriers, battleships, and cruisers that were part of the Pearl Harbor Task Force. Nagasaki, the city where their special armor-busting bombs were made, was destroyed by a U.S. atom bomb on August 9, 1945. And a little less than a month later, when the Japanese surrender document was signed on September 2nd, among the U.S. warships present in Tokyo Bay was our battleship, the West Virginia. Please bow your head and join me in a moment of silence in memory of all of those that lost their lives that infamous day. Thank you. We do not mean to glorify war by this demonstration. We simply honor a time when our nation was strong and united, patriotic. The United States of America's dedication led to the surrender not only of Japan, but Nazi Germany as well, giving peace and freedom to the entire world. We do this in appreciation of that dedication, determination, and effort, and extend our appreciation to the men and women fighting for our freedom today. We salute them all, past, present, and future. Torah, Torah, Torah. Special salute. Well, how about that wall of fire, huh? Awesome. Our wall of fire today is presented by our Torah Bomb Squad, led by Ben West of Madison, Wisconsin, as well as his team from across the United States, his sister Martha Boswell, his son Caleb West, Bitchy Ryan, Mandy McConnell, John Blevins, Jim Cool, his daughter Christina Anderson, and his son-in-law Tommy Anderson, and Kevin and Peg Scarsborough. What you think about that, huh? Let's give them a round of applause. That's awesome. All right, I would love to introduce our pilots to you. So incoming here from our left will be our Torah lead, Doug Durr. He will be in 0115, flying Torah for over 20 years. He's from the Woodlands, Texas. Followed by second-generation pilot Dan Reedy. He's in our 0114 from Pearland, Texas. 0111 from Patrick Hutchins from Bayou Vista, Texas. And 0113, Mike Anderson from Muskogee, Oklahoma. Here comes our K-Torpedo bombers. Here's our speckled K-313, flown by Daniel Rothman from Liberal, Kansas. And K-310, Parker Rathman from Linden, Texas. Last but not least is our P-36 Hawk, flown by Chris Walker from Palestine, Texas. Today, our P-40 Warhawk was flown by Taylor Stevenson from Dallas, Texas. Let's give our pilots a round of applause, please. Awesome. Yes, our air shows showcase our military forces. It's also an excellent opportunity to highlight the cities of Layton, Ogden, Roy, Clinton, Clearfield, Sunset, Farmington, Kaysville, and Syracuse, as well as Hill Air Force Base. It's a chance to promote community relations, which are so vital and important for continued success. But more than anything, it's a chance to give you a glimpse into the extraordinary capabilities of our nation's people and equipment. With our little history lesson, Torah's purpose here is to highlight the advancement of our military capabilities from the 1940s to what you see here today with our modern military. December 7, 1941 was a pivotal moment, not only in U.S. history, but world history as well. Europe had already been on fire for 2 years, and despite the best efforts of some incredibly sharp people, we did not have the most professional and powerful military. Because of that lack of foresight, planning, and commitment, the sons and daughters of this nation paid a terrible price. We think that's worth remembering, and hope you do as well. Lest we forget, freedom is not free. Torah 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 is a part of the Commemorative Air Force, an organization dedicated to preserve in flying condition one of every American military aircraft that served the U.S. during World War II. All of our team members are volunteers, and we love what we do. Torah 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 has been flying air shows for over 52 years. We would love for you to follow us on social media and visit our website at torah for more information and our show schedule. Once again, a big salute to everybody that came out today at Hill Air Force Base and for letting us perform for you. We hope you enjoyed it. I'm Denise Walker. I'm your narrator for today. All together, we are Torah, Torah, Torah. Back to you, Danny.
Thank you, Denise Walker. Thank you to the award-winning Torah, Torah, Torah. Let's give them a big round of applause, reenacting history. And if you want to learn more about Torah, it was a movie back in 1970, and the movie companies, Hollywood, took a number of these aircraft and modified them to look like Japanese fighter and torpedo aircraft. After the movie was completed and it had its run, the Commemorative Air Force, called the Confederate Air Force at that time, bought all of these aircraft.
And stand by talent in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take it, cue it, track it.
Hey, welcome back to Broadcast Central for day one of this 2024 Utah Air Show, the Warriors over the Wasatch. I'm Dan Hawkins along with Devin
Mashuli.
I knew I was going to mess it up, so
okay.
that's why I let
Italian,
you say
it. It looks a little weird when you say it, but it's good.
Yeah, so she's from our KSL 5 team. So glad to partner with you guys this year for this air show. You might see her doing the weather report. So
yes,
give
at
us
4
a quick...
o'clock at 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you watch KSL, you can get your forecast from yours truly.
So, I mean, in 15 seconds, what's the weather?
Hot.
Hot. There you go. So
hot, sunny, but there's a little bit of a breeze, and that really does help. And it'll be a little bit windier tomorrow. So
looking live on our screen right now, we see the B-2 Spirit.
That's
and
awesome.
That is a incredible aircraft, a dramatic leap in technology. The B-2, a multi-role bomber capable of delivering both conventional and nuclear weapons. That's a pretty sight.
It's like you can barely see it, how thin it is along the line there.
Yeah.
Makes sense why it's the stealth one.
And so I know the crowd has been waiting for the shot. I'm assuming they'll take it full screen here for a moment so you can get the beauty of this aircraft as it flies by. The B-2 brings massive firepower to bear in a short time anywhere on the globe, really through impenetrable defenses. I mean, that's just majestic.
Its mission, I read that its longest mission was from Missouri to Afghanistan, I believe. So it's cool to see that it can travel that far.
Yeah, the B-2 has been around since November of 1988. Rolled out of the hangar at Air Force Plant 42 in Palmdale, California.
Okay. So now we're going to bring in Mr. Enos Cummings. He's an engineering director for the 309th Software Engineering Group. He is leading the way, or the group is leading the way, as a world-class software development organization. The 309 SWAGs, approximately 2,000 engineers, scientists, cyber professionals, and support teams provide critical system updates for military fighter jets, missile systems, satellite systems, and other things. So what a huge group that encompasses encompasses a lot of things. So now, Mr. Enos Cummings, can you just tell me about the software group and all that goes into it over there?
Yeah, so appreciate the question. Yeah, I represent the 309 SWAG. We have, like you said, about 2,000 engineers, computer scientists, and our main mission is to develop software and hardware solutions for these military aircraft that you're seeing here. And so we're all civilians, meaning that we work for the Air Force, not in an active duty stance, but as civilians for the Air Force.
Yeah, and I imagine your workforce is primarily civilians, right? General Bell was on earlier, the commander of the Ogden ALC, and he said there's really only about 100 blue suit military in the ALC, so I imagine that translates for the SWAG, right?
Correct, absolutely, yeah. And we have technical talent, engineers, computer scientists, cybersecurity specialists, configuration management specialists, all these people working together to develop code to support our nation's defense through these aircraft here.
And I imagine your crew produces a lot of different things. So maybe you can touch on one that you're particularly proud of that you maybe recently have done or just in all of your time working with this group.
Yeah, great question. So we are very proud of, if you could see just behind us there, those F-16s, right, that the Thunderbird are using. We have basically the engineering staff that creates every line of code, every piece of software for that jet. So everything that, as we add capability to that jet, the F-16, because it actually first flew 50 years ago today. So that jet is 50 years old, the airframe, but by adding continually new capabilities, new computers, new electronics, new avionics, we are the ones that integrate that. We work with the program office who is also located here at Hill and making sure that that jet does what it does. In fact, this afternoon when we see the Thunderbirds fly, 2 thumbs up, just know that a lot of our team has been doing that.
Programming is so hard because if you have one thing not correct and you can't find it, it is like pulling your hair out. So how is it working with people and how do they handle, the difficulty that comes with coding and producing something so it all finally works?
So our teams we do a lot of pair programming. We do things to where the teams are working together, have a built-in peer review, if you will, so that the people who are working, are basically working together in a team environment to make sure that the code that we produce is valid code, is good code. We also have a very robust test team who verifies everything that we do to make sure that it's on track and it delivers for the pilot.
Yeah, and you can talk about the work environment itself, like how is that with the flow and how things have to kind of walk down through that chain of command, through the test team. Maybe you can touch on the work environment in general.
So post-COVID, we've found that there's certain aspects, about 30% of our team can now telework. But the vast majority of what we do is still behind that curtain of we work classified information, of course.
Yeah.
And so we have to have those labs and those networks all within a classified environment. So, but finding that we can adopt a lot of software, modern software practices like working from home.
Yeah, that's cool. You never would think that.
Just a programming note, if you didn't hear it, the F-35
that was the F-35.
Took off, and you might have heard that sound of freedom. That's something that you're used to
it is.
Hearing every day.
It is. That's our main bird here at Hill, right?
So obviously understanding things like cyber and what you do at the software unit, what are some of the qualifications if somebody might be interested in perhaps working with your team?
So a lot of the technical side will have to have a bachelor's degree in engineering or computer science. Those in cybersecurity, there's certain certificates that we need to work through that. But we're developing relationships with the local universities, Utah State, Weber State, the University of Utah. We have a very robust internship program. And with those interns, we have about 100 this year that are working with us to learn about the mission that we have and to get that mission instilled in their heart. And so we know that in this workforce, technical talent is very valuable everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so if we find a place where they have mission and purpose, they tend to stick with us.
Yeah, and I might have misspoke. It looks like on the screen, is that an A-10?
There was an A-10 that just took off.
Okay, so I might have misspoke there. I thought it was the F-35.
And it was the F-35 going first time.
Oh, it does. Okay, so I missed something. I mean, I was correct. Like, am I off here? Okay, so, what do you particularly see, as you look towards the future, some of the things that you guys are excited to be working on? Well, that you can share.
I can't share any more than that. No, we just last year we stood up what we call a software directorate, where we have software, a group similar to ours at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma and at Robbins Air Force Base in Georgia. And so now the three of us are under one organizational structure. We report directly to General Hawkins, the 3-star general at AFSC. And by bringing these three groups together, we're now leveraging the best of breed at each of those sites, the best in process, the best in software development skill sets, and just tying us all together to where we really have that one software focus now. It's awesome. It's like anything when you bring a family together. You got that crazy in-law over there on the one side, right? But in the end, this is definitely the right thing to bring us all together.
Wow. Well, we certainly appreciate what you do and your team does every day here at Hill to support the mission, but also, the defense of this great nation. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So Enos Cummings, who
Skip says biplanes rule. Biplanes are the best. Melissa, off on your right, she says that monoplanes rule. Skip Stewart said guys can fly better than girls. Melissa Burns says girls can fly better than guys. They can fly rings around the guys. So this is what they're going to do. They're going to have a little bit of a challenge. Now we'll watch them coming in for the head-on collision series of maneuvers. Watch for them to play a game of chicken as they cross in Mield Field, augmented by pyrotechnics. Skip goes high and to your left, Melissa goes high and to your right. They meet high at Show Center. Now it's the mayhem of Skip on your right, Melissa on your left is not enough. Adding to the mayhem in this free-for-all is the Hot Streak 2. Hayden Prophet II at the controls. We saw and heard him earlier today. 2 jet engines formerly powering the T2 Buckeye. As Skip goes high and to your left, now descending. Melissa high and to your right, she's now descending. Down at ground level, Hayden Prophet II firing up those 2 jet afterburning engines. Raw flames coming out the side stacks. Skip and Melissa doing the opposing head-on loop. Calling contact with each other. All right, afterburner on the ground. Following the Hot Streak 2, Bob Fury, the crew chief in the white pickup truck. Working her way down is Melissa in her Edge 540 in the Prometheus, highly modified hot rod biplane, Skip Stewart. Skip down at ground level, He's going to lay a little smoke down on the hot streak 2. And the two pilots are going to try to intimidate that jet-powered truck. Born into a family of drag racing champions, his grandfather, Hayden Prophet I, NHRA and AHRA champion, his uncle Brad, jet-powered vehicles. 25,000 equivalent.
Wow, so lots happening here at the 2024 Utah Air Show. Warriors over the Wasatch. Dan Hawkins and Devin Mashuli. So glad you could stick with us this afternoon on what is turning out to be, in weather terms, a very hot day.
Hot, and at least it's sunny, though, so we can see everything perfectly.
And there you see hot streak 2. That's providing some heat.
Yeah, great. Maybe we should tell them to cut the fire for just a little bit.
Hang on the other side of the flight line.
At least it looks cool, right?
It does look cool. So we're delighted now to introduce our next guest, Colonel William Storms. He's the director of the Minuteman III Systems Directorate here at Hill Air Force Base. The Minuteman III ICBM, or Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, I'll get it out, represents the only operational weapon system of the land-based leg of the U.S. nuclear triad and provides the nation's most responsive global strategic deterrent and global strike capabilities. So, sir, welcome in. Are you having a good time?
Having a blast.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you work with the Minuteman III, but, you know, is there a particular airframe that you're interested in seeing fly today?
All the Air Force ones. The Navy one was interesting, but all the Air Force ones, for sure.
Oh, you have to say that, don't you?
He's a company man, after all.
I get it.
I'm a little invested at this point.
Yeah. You've given a couple years at the office. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do with the Minuteman III and the directorate here at Hill?
Yeah, so the directorate here is it's the system program office for the weapon system. We maintain the engineering authorities for the weapon system, and the missile wings, right, 3 different missile wings across 5 states, where right now today there are, as we sit here, there are missileers sitting down in the silos, or down in the capsules, on alert to providing that nuclear deterrent. The weapon system that they're executing, it's mechanical, it's electrical, right, it's all kinds of different systems that come together to create it. As those pieces age out and fail, and what our responsibility is to ensure that when the maintainers pull something out of the field, they have something to put back in. So we work with supply chain management, we work with the depot. That's actually both those organizations here at Hill. Huge ICBM community here at Hill, enterprise here at Hill. It's been here for a very long time. Without Hill, we wouldn't have an ICBM in the field today. And so we are that interface from the missile wings to those other organizations to make sure that if something can't be built anymore, we go find the company that can build the new piece. We go work on the design. We're a bunch of engineers, program managers, logistic management specialists, those types of individuals that are monitoring and watching. We track failure trends, see kind of how things are going, so we know if we need to go start a new program, because it is, as you mentioned, the only operational land-based leg of the nuclear triad. It has to be on alert. It has to be safe, secure, and effective all the time. Nuclear Weapons Center motto, never doubted, always feared. That's only because we trust in the weapon system, and our job is to ensure that the missile wings have the tools, the knowledge, and the equipment that they need to go do their job, to keep us safe, so we can sit out here and enjoy this without having to worry about somebody else trying to launch nuclear weapons at us.
And what's it like having to maintain this system, you know, the nation's backbone, nuclear deterrent, for so long?
Yeah, it's clearly an aging system.
Yeah.
There's a new system. It's called Sentinel. It's a large development program. We need that system because it is hard, right? There are things that happen every day that we've got to work with the missile wings and ensure that they have what they need. But at the end of the day, right, it is still fully effective. It is fully safe. It's fully secure. It can do the mission that is required to do today. And the Air Force Global Strike Command personnel that are watching over us are doing that with this weapon system. And we will continue to do that until we don't have to anymore. It's what has to happen. It's challenging for sure, but we've got the right people. We've got the right tools. We've got the right equipment. We've got the right technology, the right understanding, and we're going to keep doing that.
And just to give everybody a sense of of kind of the scope of what we're talking about. In a general sense, could you just explain what the 3 legs of the triad are? We've talked about it, but somebody might be going like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're land-based, which means these missiles sit in a silo across 5 states, kind of in the middle northern tier section of the country. And they're on alert, ready to go today. There are people waiting to get the call to defend us if we need to. So the most responsive, as was mentioned. And then you've got the sea leg, which is owned by the Navy. It's the boomer submarines, as they're called. And I'm somewhat out of my lane if I use the wrong terms here. People that in the Navy and know more will have to forgive me. But they're sea launch based cruise intercontinental ballistic missiles that come out. They're sea based that come out of the submarines to take that. They are hidden. Nobody knows where they are, so they are kind of the most evasive, the hardest to hit. So it keeps our capability, whereas ICBMs, our adversaries definitely know where they are. They've been in place for 60-plus years. It's no secret where the subs are. That's a secret, and that's what they bring to the triad. And then air-launched is fairly responsive, but then also they're the ones that we can call back, and you can put them, and again, some uncertainty where you can go, but you can forward deploy them. You can keep them around, so they bring that piece as well. So there's the 3 together are needed to help us make sure that we're covered in all aspects of nuclear deterrence.
And obviously it's important to have this because you need to protect America, because it's like, obviously, whoa, what's the importance of maintaining this nuclear capability? It seems so grand scale, but it's just to keep everybody safe, I imagine.
That's right. And the fact of the matter is nuclear weapons were invented.
Yep.
We have them, and as long as others have them, we have to have them. And so we will continue this part of the deterrence.
Well, and in this era of great power competition, even more important than ever to make sure that we continue to modernize, as you talked about with the Sentinel. That's part of being able to modernize and keep pace with competition. But I want to switch gears a little bit and maybe talk to the workforce that you have here at Hill, and maybe some of the qualifications for people that you might look for folks who might be a great fit for your program.
Yeah, so technical skills are good. Electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers, any type of engineer is great. Program managers are important because we'll go and work on a technical solution, but if we don't have folks that understand kind of how that interaction with contractors, because we in the government, we build very little. Right, we rely on the defense contractors of the nation to actually provide the products. The planes you see here are the missiles that we work with, and all the other equipment. And so we need folks that understand that system well and know how to manage programs, dollars, and those kinds of things. So we got a mix of civilian and military here as part of our organization, and then we work with the depot side, which is for us specifically is the 309th Missile Maintenance Group. It's part of the Air Logistics Complex here at Hill, and they're mechanics of a sort, but focused on like working on a rocket booster for a Minuteman III, right? Highly specialized skills, almost trades, if almost like level of skill to do this work. So those are types of the folks that work on this weapon system.
I imagine another benefit for having to work on something for so long is you get different age groups or generations. So maybe you can touch on how the young help the older and the older help the young. I feel like is that something you see in your program, like kind of a spread of ages? Yeah,
so there is, much like anywhere else, right? There is definitely a spread of ages.
Yeah.
And that's the trick, right, is taking the seasoned workforce who has the knowledge and has the history and just sort of does things because they know it, right? And then trying to get younger, less seasoned people in, and maybe they have knowledge on some of the general principles of program management or engineering or whatever, right? But they don't know the weapon system. And so one of the biggest things that we work through is figuring out how to bridge that gap. How do we take that knowledge from the older workforce and get it into the newer workforce? Just so we don't lose that, because this is one-of-a-kind capability. Nobody else is doing this stuff. Hill's where it's happening. And so how do we make sure that we keep that workforce going from now until the end of Minuteman III and then whatever the follow-on is? Right now, Sentinel, right? As the Sentinel comes, we've got to be able to bridge that gap. We've got to be able to maintain the workforce. We've got to make sure that we're able to glean that knowledge, because once it's gone, it's really hard to get back.
Yeah, it's a lot of in-depth stuff, I imagine. Yeah. You guys have to reinvent the wheel, too, so you're reteaching that stuff. So obviously you sound very very passionate about what you're talking about. Why do you do what you do? Why do you go back to work every single day?
Well, I got orders to come here, so
I figured that was one thing.
Fair. No, so I've 20 plus years of doing development, acquisition work in the Air Force. I've worked a myriad of programs. I've been on a lot of some aircraft, some weapons, and the majority of my time has been on development. So things that are kind of in the middle of us figuring out how to build it and going through the designs and working with the contractors. And this is the furthest I've ever been in the life cycle of a weapon system. And it's instantaneous feedback, right? Generally, you make a decision in the acquisition work career field, and you go, was that right? I think it was right with the information I had, right? I made the best decision I could. In this one, I get instant feedback from many general officers and others that are utilizing this weapon system that was not good because now we don't have a truck or now we don't have a piece, right? And so from that perspective, it's really good. And to be that closely tied to this mission, right? The importance of why we do this. And I think if I speak for my team when I say that the very dedicated workforce that truly understands that everything that we do relies on nuclear deterrence, kind of underwriting everything else, right? An F-35 doesn't exist if you don't have effective nuclear deterrence. We wouldn't be able to do the things we do as a nation without the nuclear backbone that we have today. And it's been confirmed over and over again through our national defense policy and whatnot that there needs to be a triad, and one piece of that triad is always the land-based, and that's us. That's what we do, and that's why we're passionate about it, because without it, we don't get to have what we're having today.
Well, Colonel William Storms, the director of the Minuteman III Systems Director at Hill, but thank you so much for your time. We certainly appreciate what you and your team do every day in the defense of this great nation.
Yeah. No, thank you. It's been fun.
It sounds like you love your job, but you could have a career in meteorology with the last name Storms, I have to say.
I was really afraid I wouldn't make it past Major because Major Storms just sounded too cool.
Oh, that sounds a little scary.
There you have it, Major Colonel Storms. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you get a live look at the Hill flight line, the A-10 Warthog, the Army's best friend, I like to call it, landing after a flight for the crowd here as we roll towards the F-35 demonstration team and the Air Force Thunderbirds coming up right around 3 o'clock. So we hope you make your plans to stay with us all afternoon long. We'll be with you live here from Hill Air Force Base. We're going to go ahead and take a quick time out. We're going to throw it out to the narrator. We'll be back with more after this.
The F-35 destroying the enemy air defense and enabling freedom of movement in the skies. They now make their presence known, installing fear and disrupting the enemy ground forces. The tactical situation on the ground is still challenging as our friendly forces continue to engage by enemy forces on the east side of the airfield. The Air Force Tactical Control Party Joint Terminal Air Attack Controller embedded with the friendly ground forces. They will utilize the F-35 close air support to neutralize enemy forces to turn the tide of the battle.
Panther Flight, JTAC checking in. Panther Flight, proceed. IP Alpha, call when ready. Cash check-in.
Panther 1, checking in. Fuel and weapons green.
Panther, enemy tactical vehicles and dismounted personnel east of the airfield make attacks north to south.
Panther 1,
Panther, call in with direction. Expect clearance on final.
Panther. Panther 1's in from the north.
Panther 1, cleared hot, cleared hot, cleared hot.
Panther 1. Panther 2 in from the north.
Panther 2, cleared hot, cleared hot.
Panther 2. Panther 1 in from the north.
Panther 1, cleared hot.
Panther 1.
Two passes each. One by each.
Panther 2 in from the north.
Panther 2, cleared hot, cleared hot.
Panther 2.
Panther, good effects, good effects. Request immediate re-attack, north to south, same restrictions. Panther 1, cleared hot, cleared hot.
Panther 1. Panther 2 in from the north.
Panther 2, cleared hot, cleared hot.
Panther 2.
The final pass is your best opportunity to get photos as they fly from north to south, crossing at Air Show Center. The Panthers may go out of the T-bar to the north to catch up with